And welcome to Coleman on Purpose. This is David J. Coleman. I want to welcome you to another edition of Coleman on Purpose. Today, I have a very special guest on with me today. Her name is Michelle Coleman, and she just happens to be my cousin. And we have been waiting to do this episode for so long. Before she even introduces herself, I want to go ahead and give who she is and why she is here. Because this is all about purpose. So I wanted to make sure I brought on someone to give to other aspects of what purpose means. Michelle is the founder of Divinely Purpose LLC. She is a certified life coach and mentor specializing in empowerment and narcissistic abuse recovery. And Michelle, I really thank you for being here. I want you to explain your mission statement to us and what this is all about, what you have founded and what you have brought to us.
Yeah, so I'm really simply here just to motivate, inspire, empower, and encourage other survivors of narcissistic abuse to reclaim their personal power because that is something that they give away in these relationships with narcissists. So that became my life's mission to help free others and help them reclaim their personal power.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And I think, like I said, this is all, even in the name of her, of what she founded, just divinely purpose, it's all connected to who and what we are and what we are searching for. And these times are just really crazy right now. So it's important to know the roots and where things come from and to how to spot things sometimes. So I'm glad that you are here. Michelle and I met through being family. So we grew up in Ohio and I met her through my family and we actually knew each other before that time. And so over time, we've developed of course, a close relationship as family. And recently I had seen her on Instagram doing a lot of reels and stuff like that about narcissism. And I really never heard the word until I really heard her start talking about it. When did you start first talking about narcissism and the subject of narcissism and why did you do that?
I first started speaking on narcissism about 9 years ago, I would say. I had recently got out of a divorce and I connected the dots. But I went through like an awakening period. I had this awakening moment. And after that relationship, I was able to kind of connect the dots back to my family and find where everything originated from. And I had a light bulb moment during my healing process as I took time to heal after that relationship. I realized that narcissists are time thieves because there's so many layers to the abuse, and then there's so many layers to the healing and recovery process. And so when you in these relationships, they say it takes often 7 times to leave a relationship like this. So if you can imagine, that's already a lot of time that you're
Yes.
spending with these individuals. And after that, during your healing, you have to heal your mind and you have to heal your body. Those are two different things you have to work on. As far as your mind, you're spending time reframing pretty much everything you've learned because the narcissist
Mhm.
has systematically broken you down. And if you're a person who dealt with this since childhood, you can imagine there's a lot of work to do there.
Wow.
Along with your body, because of the nature of the abuse, your body stays in a constant state of fight or flight, which means you have high levels of cortisol while you're dealing with the narcissist, and this can be over a long period of time. So now you have to spend this time detoxing and healing your body. That takes a lot of time. And
Jeez.
then I noticed even there were some older women who I was around, and they were still dealing with a lot of bitterness and anger. And I just saw how it ties people's lives up. And so I realized when I was going through my healing journey, I've got to help free other people, and I have to act now because of
Yeah.
how much time these narcissists take off your life. It became my life's purpose just to get busy and get started helping free other people.
Oh my gosh, that is such a blessing because we really don't realize it. And it's important that we recognize time. When you were just mentioning that, just time in general, when you're just trying to find your purpose alone, that's just enough by itself. But then when you add in a another dynamic of somebody who comes to take away that time, that
Yeah.
really impacts and makes a difference to how quickly or what the process is in getting to your purpose. So I definitely see what you're speaking on. Can you just define, if we really break it down now, what is a narcissist exactly?
So, a narcissist, and I'm going to frame it a certain way. You have your definition, like in the DSM and in the literature all across the internet. But I'm going to frame it this way, and I'm doing it on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose, with
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah, yeah.
A narcissist, I look at narcissism as a system that someone uses to gain, regain, or maintain power and control over a certain individual. You have
Wow.
someone who is full blown narcissist that has narcissistic personality disorder, but then you also have people who are narcissistic who just have a certain level of traits, but they're still using
Mm.
the same system to gain, regain, or maintain power and control over certain individual. And it could be perceived control because it might be revealed as we continue talking, but narcissists can be a little delusional. So whereas they
Wow.
think that they are having control over someone, it could be literally someone's normal healthy response that's required to be given, and they would take that as I'm back in control over this person when that's not really the true reality of the situation. That's how
Oh,
I look at it, and it manifests, like I said, under as certain traits. So in the DSM-5, you'll see about 9 traits listed for NPD, and I believe you have to have at least 5 out of those 9 traits to be considered a narcissist or labeled a narcissist with
oh,
NPD.
I know. When you first, let me tell you, the funniest thing is like when you first started talking about this, I was in therapy because I've been in therapy since like 2020. So I went back.
Okay.
I was like, I went back to my therapist and I was like, you know what? Let me find out. Am I a narcissist? You know, because going through divorce, you were talking about like going through divorce and different things. You start thinking like you're the like what's going on? Am I the one that's acting this way? She did the same type of test for me. She was able to pull out the same type of test you were talking about,
Oh,
and she was like,
really?
yes. So she was like,
Wow.
no, no, I don't, there's
Okay.
not any of that in there. I was just like, oh, it gave me like a relief. But I
You
was,
know, a lot
what?
of people question themselves too. Am I the narcissist? But once you really start to study the disorder, narcissists will never question if they are a narcissist because they don't see what they're doing as anything
Oh,
wrong. And that's why I wanted to frame it in the beginning as this is someone who operates in a reality of everything based in power and control. So everything
wow.
they're doing is to benefit them to maintain or gain or regain power and control. So
Oh my goodness.
they'll never ask, am I the narcissist? Because the narcissist can't self-reflect. They can't take accountability. And these are some indicators that you could be dealing with narcissists, but they would
Wow.
never ask, am I the narcissist?
Oh, that just blew my mind. I did not know that. See, I'm learning, I'm learning a lot about that part of it. Can you tell me like if anybody's out here like looking for it, like can you mention some of the signs that somebody might see if they like are running into a narcissist or don't even know it, but these signs have been prevalent and they've just gotten used to seeing them so they really don't know. Do you know what some of the signs are?
Yeah, so I would say some of the signs are they can have like a big grandiose sense of self. They may act very entitled. They have like an excessive need for admiration and praise. You're always having to praise them.
Mm.
They believe they're superior over other people. They use other people for their gain. So they use whatever you have that can benefit them, they're using you. And they're
Mm.
also taking on your identity, your personality traits in order to operate because the narcissist is a void person. Narcissist is void,
What?
and a lot of people you'll see describe them um, as empty. Like there's a person there, but the lights aren't on inside, or
Oh my.
there's somebody here, but I mean you'll see the body, but no one's home. That's kind of how you'll see people describe them, and that's because they're like an empty shell. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh my
So
God.
because they're void and they're empty, they have to use your power, your traits, and your identity, since they don't have one, to operate. So this is a certain type of exchange that's going on when you're dealing with them. So those are some of the traits. Um, we can also talk about, different things that you might experience being with the narcissist. They take you through this love bombing stage where they're showering you with attention and affection, lots of attention, lots of affection. And then over the course of time, they might be giving you gifts. You can do no wrong. They place you on a pedestal, and then they switch. It's like something switches. And this is when
Mm.
they know that they have you hooked. They know they have you in the relationship. You're hooked. And then they go through a devaluing stage where they devalue you. And this is where they use different manipulation tactics to devalue you. And then
Mm.
after that stage is when they discard you. And then after the discard stage is when they get rid of you. Or they can still be in the relationship but just distance themselves from you. So this is time when they're often seeking out other sources of supply. And then
Oh my.
the pattern, the cycle just repeats on and on and on until you break the cycle. Because the narcissist
That
is never going to break the cycle. Only you can do that as
that
a survivor.
is insane. Oh my goodness. Like I remember mentioning because in my first two seasons, like I go through these processes of talking about myself and the nature that I have is usually to give, is just a giving nature. And so a lot of times I do feel like there's those times when I if I'm thinking back, I can think of times when I've probably been in those situations and I don't really I either notice it but I'm still trying to love. Like it's like you're still trying to and so you're pouring in, but you're not feeling like you're getting anything back
Right.
in
There's like
return.
a hole, right? There's a hole
Right.
there. You keep pouring,
Right.
pouring, pouring into an empty cup. That's why I was referring to them as empty. And
Mm,
also I forgot to mention like the probably the most important sign is they lack empathy. So they
mm,
don't have the ability to put themselves in somebody else's shoes, right?
mm.
They can't think of other people. So they lack
Wow.
empathy. That's another big, big sign.
Ooh, I wonder, like, this is kind of off my schedule, but like, I'm wondering, like, what things, because this is a part of my next question. It was about what are some of the contributing factors to a narcissist, but what can we see in ourselves as well that's drawing us to people that have narcissistic, what is like that's what I'm really thinking about, both sides of it. Like what makes a person a narcissist and what are the things that maybe attract or why we're getting some of those same types of we might get them more than once in our lives. I just kind of wonder about that.
Yeah, so I would say that narcissism starts in childhood, and the
Mm,
literature and all the research suggests that they have a genetic predisposition to
yeah.
NPD. And then that coupled along with their environment, whatever the trigger was there, is what turns on that narcissist. And then all those contributing factors creates the narcissist. So in their childhood, they could have been neglected, they could have
Mm.
been abused, they could have been, or the opposite, they could have like had too much attention or showered with too much praise or propped up too much.
So, for the first time ever in all of my broadcasts, we were interrupted for just a moment, but we're going to jump right back in because it was trying to interrupt some very important things. So, Michelle's going to jump back in. We were actually talking about finding yourself and how that plays into, getting rid or not associating ourselves or getting ourselves back involved with narcissistic behavior over and over. So, if you could just expound from where you were at, Michelle.
Yeah, so like I was saying, in this process, the narcissist chips away. I talked about the devaluing process, and this is a process where the narcissist starts to criticize you, belittle you, and those type of things. And really, they're just chipping away at your self-esteem. They're trying to break you
Yeah.
down. This is another reason why this disorder is so dangerous, because it's not just, oh, they have these traits, but it's, yeah, they have these traits, and this is insidious because this destroys a person.
Yeah.
It can destroy someone. And through this process, you lose sight of who you
Yeah.
are. People sometimes say they feel like they're a shell of their former selves
Mm.
because they have often, like I said, abandoned themselves. They don't know who they are anymore because they've taken on whatever the narcissist has trained them to
Mm.
take on, or they become. Um, I don't want to say they're a slave, but it's almost like you're a slave to the
Yeah.
narcissist. They're like a parasite, so they're
My
feeding off of
gosh.
you. So through this process, you lose sight of who you are, and that's why after you realize what this is and who you're dealing with, all the focus should be on you. Like you can't blame them anymore. Now you know what you're
Yeah.
dealing with. Now you have to do everything you can to rebuild yourself and who you
Very
are.
important.
Reconnect with who you truly
That,
are.
oh, that's deep because I have noticed like over time, what happens is I have noticed that when that light bulb, like you said, starts to go off about yourself, and then you're involving yourself with somebody that has that disorder, you start to see them wondering what is going on. It like throws them for a loop because you're like coming into yourself, and they'll try to like bring back that old stuff to get you back to that point where you are like, I'm not even no longer that. This is who I
Right.
am. This is who I've been all along. You just couldn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that starts coming back out, that person is, it's almost like they're bucking, and then it's almost like a spirit just tries to like escape. Like it's like either they're gonna leave out and be like, oh, I can't even deal with it anymore, or whatever like that, or they'll just be like, I don't know who this is, or they'll try to mock you or make fun or whatever like that to bring you back to those
Yes.
past thoughts of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yep.
so
It's
deep.
systematic. It's intentional. It's
Ooh.
intentional. That's why it's so dangerous.
Oh my
That's why it's so
gosh, you
dangerous.
are tearing it
And you
up
have
on
to
here,
do a
Michelle.
lot of work to rebuild yourself back after this type of
Wow.
relationship.
My goodness. And imagine having to do
So
that
it's
two
all
or three
about
times,
healing. Yeah, and you begin to not trust yourself anymore. Your intuition. That's
Yeah.
this is those are things that keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
You're so
Mm-hmm.
you being able to trust yourself and lean on that extra sense for protection.
Yeah.
And after these type of relationships, you're like, I don't even trust myself anymore.
Man, I'm telling you, are there any other types of ways, but when we notice those things, are there any other types of ways that people can deal with people with narcissistic behavior? Is there just like a automatic like release distance, or what can you do in general? What are some ways or traits that people can take on to help themselves to escape this, or come out of this?
Well, okay. First, I'll start with adding that we need boundaries. That's one of the first things, and that's another way you can identify if you're dealing with a narcissist. Is if you tell them no, they can't take no for an answer because you're there to serve them. You're there to meet their
Mm.
needs. So if you tell them no, you'll see the change in their behavior. If you establish boundaries with them,
Mm.
you'll see you compare how were they acting before you established a boundary and then how are they
Mm.
acting afterwards. So one of the things you can do is establish boundaries, and that's that like invisible line that separates you and the narcissist. And they oftentimes can't handle the fact that you have boundaries because they view you as an extension of themselves. Another thing I do is I would be familiar with those traits on the and DSM-5, and if you start to notice these traits, I would just take note of that. And then, yes, I would begin to distance myself. It doesn't mean that they're a narcissist, but I would look more at the behavior versus trying to label someone as a
Okay.
narcissist.
Do you think that there are ways that people that have narcissistic behavior, if can they be helped? Do you think it's like once a narcissist, always a narcissist, or are there ways that they can change, or what steps would they take to doing that?
Unfortunately, they cannot change, and you'll hear this echoed in the psychology realm and by professionals and anyone who's dealt with a narcissist. Remember in the beginning, I said this is a system that was created when they were younger. So this is who this person is. That's why it's not a mental disorder. It's not an illness. It is a personality disorder. So it's a disorder of who they are as a person,
Oh my
which
goodness.
started in childhood. And so the thing about it is, the narcissist has created this false self in order to survive through life. And they thrive off of other people's pain and suffering. They use other people and for whatever they can benefit,
Wow.
And they've done this throughout their whole lives.
My God.
So there's no incentive for them to change because this has worked for them for their whole lives.
Jeez.
So in a way, like everything that we give the narcissist fuels them. It's like this is what they need as their life source to survive because this is how this personality was set up as a child.
Wow.
So it's kind of impossible to change who you are from the core because the core of who you are never changes.
Right.
You can adjust some things throughout your life. You can change modify certain behaviors, but who you are is who you are at the core.
Yeah.
And this has been going on since they were a child.
Wow.
So no, there's not any way they can change because they first have to think that there's something wrong with them. Narcissists can't take accountability. That's another way you can identify if you're dealing with a narcissist.
Wow.
They're not able to take accountability. For someone to change, they have to recognize that they have a problem.
Yeah.
They don't think that they have a problem. This is just how they operate. This is their reality.
Yeah.
This is their reality. It's based on control and power. This is their personality. So they don't think there's anything wrong with who they are as a person.
My goodness.
So no, they can't change.
I guess we're taught a
And
lot. Yeah. And like, you know, I always hold out like hope, just me generally, like, cause I'm like that we're taught in like church, like regardless of whatever, like God can change, you know, from the inside out, you know, and you hope for those things, you know, and that's what I always think the best of people. And I don't know if that's to my default. Like I do believe like that people can change if they really, really want to. But you know, science differs sometimes, you know, like the science of things like may differ sometimes. And that could be just my way of thinking about it. I don't know if I'm wrong for thinking that way or what that is about.
Well, I think it's natural if you're a more empathetic person to think that way. Remember I said we're operating from two separate realities. And so often in church we are told to give people the benefit of forgive and all of that. And God can change anyone. But even in church, the word says that you have free will.
Yeah.
So if this person isn't willing to change, they're not going to change.
Yeah.
We can we can have as much hope as we want. And a lot of times you'll see hope is what keeps people stuck in these relationships.
Yeah. And sometimes it runs rampant. It runs rampant right in the church. And that's why we're able to
the church is the playground.
So I'll be like, I can't be deceived.
Absolutely, because a lot of times narcissists are the heads of the church.
Yeah.
They're all in a congregation.
Yeah.
Why? Because they have access to all of these people who are building them up, who are praising them. A lot of people idolize pastors and people in ministry. Yeah. So this is perfect for them.
Oh my goodness. That's so important. Ooh. It'd be bringing me back. I'm like, oh yeah, but those are the things like you got to be aware. And that's why I think God has made me so much aware. Like I feel like I have so much more of an awareness and this discernment level is on 10 a lot of times. And people don't know because I'll be quiet walking into a place and I'm observing everything. I'm looking at everything. I'm peeping it. I know God has like I can walk around like, but I see it. I know it.
Yes.
I might not say anything, but I see it. Trust me.
And that's good.
Yeah.
It's good because we do need to be on guard. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're supposed to.
Yes.
We're supposed to. And to add to what I was saying before, you know, this person has to be willing to change, but to be willing to change, you first have to recognize that there is an issue there.
Yeah.
And narcissists will never admit that there is something wrong with them. Therefore, there's no need to change. They have no reason to change. And if they have an inkling that maybe they're just a bad person. You know, they're not going to say they're a narcissist,
Right.
but maybe they'll admit that, you know, they can be a jerk or a bad person
Yeah.
sometimes. Like I said, this is an ingrained system
Yeah.
that they have in their life that has worked for them their whole lives. They have
Hmm.
no incentive to change this.
Woo.
And survivors will tell you, you might be waiting your whole life. I always encourage people, or I tell people, okay, say you keep that stance. I'm gonna have hope. Well, distance yourself. Okay, have your hope, but have your boundaries. Have those
Mm.
barriers in place, and watch how this person acts over time. And you'll see every single time the narcissist reverts back to their baseline behavior. So say, okay, I'll keep hope. Let me see you change, but I'm going to separate myself and I'm going to establish my boundaries. And if you change, I'll give you another
Right.
chance, right? But you'll never see it happen. Ask any survivor
Woo.
of narcissistic abuse, you'll never see it happen. So I would not hold my breath on thinking
For
that you
real.
will
Look,
change.
she said
You'll be waiting your whole life.
we need to keep it real. We got to keep it real in these situations. Are there any books or anything that you would recommend for people that want to like learn more on this topic, further educate their minds on it? Are there any things that stick out to you of anything you've read or that someone can go and purchase or anything for books on this?
Yeah, yeah. So I started off with Patricia Evans, and she has a whole bunch of books. I don't even know how many she has, but the verbally abusive relationship is the one that I first came across, which validated my experience. And then she has Controlling People. There's a book called Why Does He Do That? Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie. Um, Where to Draw the Line. I mean,
Okay.
there's a lot of books.
But they,
I will also look at Robert Greene's Human Nature,
okay.
because it talks a lot about the nature of how people are.
Awesome.
That's a good book to read. The 48 Laws of Power. And I mentioned that book because the narcissist is using that playbook against you. So it would be important to read that so that you would know how to counter them,
Okay.
because they go by that book, 48 Laws of Power. They use that to attack you.
Wow.
But those are just some of the books. But Patricia Evans has a
One of
ton
the
of
main
books, I
ones.
would say.
Got you.
Yes.
And what ways have you found like purpose in discussing issues like this? And why do you feel like it's important to bring this subject to the light? Where have you found that purpose in you with this?
Well, I heard the saying, only free people can free other people, and you can only free people to the extent that you've been free. And so once I broke free from this, like I said, I'm a survivor over 30 years. So
Wow.
I truly believe it became my life's purpose to bring other people into the light and the knowledge of what this is, and help them break free and
Mm.
show them how to do it. Show them how to counter the narcissist. Show them what this is all about, first of all, because that's really half the battle. Once you know what you're dealing with, it's much easier to fight. But it's kind of hard to fight when you don't know what you're dealing with, right?
Right, right.
So, once you know what you're dealing with, that's half the battle. But like I said, there's a longer process to recovery. And so I really believe, since God was able to lead me through that and free me from that, I'm able to go and help somebody else
That is
and
a,
bring them into the light and show them that the light is inside of them. They've got the light. So, always remain hopeful, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, because you are the light.
that come on. That's I've been hearing that so much right now. And do you know anything like in the future, what do you see yourself doing with this call that you had, this call to action? Do you see what other things do you see from yourself, like just in walking in this purpose? Are there any other things that you are looking forward to or want to do with this?
Yeah, so currently I am writing my first book about
It's
narcissism.
amazing.
Um,
Wow.
I've already began that, and it's going to be loaded and packed.
Yeah.
I teach people how to be like a narc food warrior, so a
Mm,
ferocious warrior,
mm.
to overcome narcissistic abuse. So I'm working on my first book, and then also creating a course
Okay.
The 3 pillars of my company is based on evolve, transform, and ascend. So I'm currently working on my evolve course. And then I would love in the future to extend my network to church spaces so that
Okay.
people within churches will have a safe space to talk about narcissists since they
Yeah.
are very prevalent in that space.
Amazing, 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 Michelle. Thank you so much for coming and just talking about this. Is there anywhere that people can find you, like just talking about these things? Where can they find you on Instagram and other places?
Yep, so I'm pretty much on all platforms. You can find me under divinely.purpose on Instagram, divinely.purpose on TikTok, divinely purpose CM on Facebook and YouTube, divinely purpose.
Come on, brand
So
it.
yeah,
I
come
love
check
it.
me out. I'm mostly on TikTok
Okay.
and Facebook more so than
Okay.
Instagram, but I'm trying to
Okay.
rebuild my my platform on Instagram. So
Continue,
yes.
continue, continue the great, great, great work. Can anybody, is there, if anybody wants to reach out for any type of help or anything like that, is there like an email or anything that anybody can send you if they want to reach out, if they're experiencing some of these
Yeah,
things and just need somebody to talk to?
for sure. If you would like to reach out to me, my email is divinelypurposedsls@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me for support. If you need some questions you want answered, whatever the case is, that's the email. Divinelypurposedsls@gmail.com.
I would like to thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on Coleman on Purpose, giving us your insight, giving us so much wisdom and so much knowledge on this. I know we got a little broken up with all the things going on technically, but this was needed. I know that's why I had you on here and everything like that. And when you do your book, make sure you come back through here. We're gonna get it. We're gonna promote it just like I did for my mom's book. We're gonna make sure that people tap into this and really get a hold of what this really is. Because a lot of people throw around that word like narcissist now because they know the word, but do they really know the root of it and what the deepness of it is? And when
Mm-hmm.
people like you really have that have studied it and know what this is all about, it is good to have people like you. And you're my cousin, so I can brag on you and everything. So that is an amazing thing.
Yes.
Please make sure you come back, watch. I have so many more episodes this season on season 3 of Coleman on Purpose. Follow me at Deluxe Dave, DeluxeDave on Instagram. You can also follow me on TikTok. I have a Coleman on Purpose special page now on TikTok, as well as a Coleman on Purpose page on IG. I'm trying to do a little bit more on Facebook, but find me on IG and TikTok. And once I get it rolling, we'll make sure we put up many of the clips from this episode and other amazing episodes of Coleman on Purpose. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Coleman on Purpose. Remember, you are unique, you are loved, and you are created for greatness. Until next time,